Okay, continue to the next slide. Tips to avoid viruses and lessen their impact. You need to install antivirus software from reputable vendors. So, di po mo basta-basta mag-install og antivirus. Kay base na inyo na-install kay instead na antivirus kay the virus itself. So, very important na reputable or legitimate na vendor. And then in addition to scanning for viruses on regular basis, install an on-access scanner included in most antivirus software packages and configure it to start each time you start up your computer. And I think right now, most computers, kay mga high-ends naman, na ano yung mga antiviruses, no? Na already installed on the system. But for some, wala pa that you need to install. So use a virus scan before you open any programs or files that may contain executable code. And this includes packaged software that you buy from the store as well as any program you might download from the internet. And yeah, ano lang. Kailangan lang nimo og antivirus. Next slide. Computing impacts. Of course, computing or computers has impacts to our lives, no? When it comes to social, on work, and in our daily lives. So for social impact, computing technologies, like most other forms of technology, are not socially neutral. They affect and are themselves affected by society. And kamo na lang tiwas og basa na, no? Just and also sa computer, impact on computers on work. One of the ways that computers made an impact on society is in how people have organized themselves in workplace, groups in relationship to computers. And also it has an effect, no? Computers has an effect as to us human being. Psychologists have long been interested in observing and analyzing the way humans interact with computers. So research in human-computer interactions has studied how people read and process information presented to them on computer screens. So the types of input error people are most likely to make when using different computer systems, and the effectiveness of various kinds of input devices such as keyboards, mice, lights, and fans. Uy, nagkikonsig basa. Development of user interaction. I think last topic na ni siya, guys. So for the development of user interface, later on when you are going to create your own um, web apps, it's important that you understand what UI means, no, or user interface. So user interface development is development of websites, web applications, mobile applications, and software development. And we will be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript later on. So it has three phases. First is we have designing. When you create your own software application, you really need to design. And you need functional requirements on that one. It determines the initial requirements on what are the goals for that application. Para asa man ang imong application. And then user analysis, meaning you are going to identify what are the different user scenarios. Unsa ang buhaton ni user sa imong app. User could log in, user could buy a product, user could check out a product, etc. And we also need a conceptual design. It models the underlying business that the application must support. Local design, this is the design, the process, and the information flow of the application. And then the physical design, you decide how the logical design will be implemented in specific physical platforms. And then after designing, you need implementing. And in implementing, we have prototype and construct. So the prototype, develop paper or interactive screen mockups that focus on the interface, but doesn't include distracting visual design elements. And then construct, of course, build the application and prepare for design change request. And testing, usability testing, accessibility testing, and there's a lot of testing actually, pero kanilang ang important. Usability and then accessibility. So if ganahan mo mahimong mga software developers later on or mag-focus mo into software development, then kani siya nga mga phases ang agian niya. Designing, implementing, and testing. And there are different rules that ngayon yung makuha ani nga mga different phases. Okay, so this is example, usability evaluation. This is the evaluation-centered life cycle for user interaction development. Okay, so first is we have interaction development life cycle, etc. Blah blah blah. And then we have the different user interface development team or software development team. So depende na sa inyo later on kung mag-graduate mo, asa mo ganahan. You could be a user interface designer, software developer, you could be a project manager, you could be a software engineer, developer or analyst, you could be a scrum master, product owners, QA testers, technical writer, graphic designer. So since nag-IT man mo, then daghan kaayo rules kung asa gid inyong gusto. Pwede pod sa cybersecurity, etc. But for this topic, for software development lang. So each has different rules. And then team na siya by team na sa isa ka team na Scrum Master, na product owners, na QA, the software engineers, etc. Next, so UI developer and rule and responsibilities. So they are responsible for building web application using single page application, SPA paradigm, and then develop software solution using industry best practices and in the area of security and performance in a web and SOA architecture environment. Effectively develop a clean, well-structured, easily maintainable format and then participate on full SDLC with requirements, solution design, development, QA implementation, Scrum, and other methodologies.